Hello. Good afternoon and welcome to this meeting of the Council's Cabinet, which will be webcast. Before we start these proceedings, may I bring to your attention some housekeeping matters. There is no expected fire alarm testing today. Therefore, if the fire alarm sounds, please follow the fire and emergency procedures and leave via the nearest fire exit. Please can I ask that you use your microphone when addressing the meeting and that it is switched off when you are not using it, and please ensure your mobile devices are turned to silent. So I move to item 1, apologies.
Thank you, Chair. We have apologies received from the leader.
Thank you, Jamie. Item 2 on the agenda is declarations of interest. Do members have any declarations of interest in respect of any of the items on the agenda today? No. Okay. Item 3 is minutes. Minutes of the previous meeting. So I propose that the minutes of the meeting held on the 13th of October 2025 be signed as a correct record. All agreed? Item 4, questions from the public.
Thank you, Chair. There's no questions from the public today.
Thank you, Jamie. Item 5, Chair's urgent business. Do we have any items of urgent business?
Thank you, Chair. No items of urgent business today.
Lovely, thank you. Okay, so now I'm going to move on to item 6, which is the Finance Monitoring Report Month 6. Councillor Lowry will introduce this report, and he is joined by Ian Trisgrove, who is Service Director for Finance. So I'm going to hand over to you, Councillor Lowry.
Thank you, Chair. I've got a lot of information to present and a lot of figures, but I can assure you there will be no exam at the end, so you can relax and just listen to my dulcet tones, as it were. So I'm presenting the 6-month financial monitoring report, which sets out the revenue monitoring position of the Council at the end of this financial year 25-26, as of September this year. So the month just passed, as it were. The headline position is that we're now reporting an adverse variance of some £8.7454 million. This reflects a continuing financial pressure we are facing across several key areas, and despite the significant efforts by members and officers, we still need to deliver some more cost savings against our delivery plans. So I would just highlight a few of the key challenges that we face. Adult social care continues to experience an increased demand, particularly in respect to home placements. The Directorate is now reporting a budget pressure of some £2.2 million. Children's services are under pressure from rising placement costs, with residential and unregistered placement costs exceeding the budget. The Directorate is reporting a pressure of some £3.7 million. Community Connections remains under strain due to the rising cost of temporary accommodation and increasing demand, and maintaining a pressure of some £0.91 million. Customer Services and Corporate Services Directorate is reporting a budget pressure of some £1.2 million, largely due to unbudgeted facility surveys, the resulting repairs and the associated maintenance costs. The costs associated with the directly elected mayoral referendum increased over and above what was expected by £169,000. And as previously reported, the Growth Directorate is unable to realise some £1.3 million income target from the Energy to Waste Plant profit share arrangement due to scheduled maintenance downtime. Despite these challenges, we have achieved some £6.5 million so far in year of our savings against target, with a further £3.7 million in progress. There are some considerable difficulties faced by the authority to address these adverse variances. Whilst there are some opportunities to meet the budget position from reprofiling available reserves, this will not address the shortfall we clearly face. Myself and members will continue to work with the Section 151 officer and the Chief Executive's team to address this situation. This ensures that we will maintain a particular focus on in-year delivery of the key initiatives and ensuring that high placement costs suffered across children, adults, homelessness and SEND are addressed in the most effective manner. Moving on to the capital programme, the 5-year capital programme now stands at some £372 million, with a forecast revised down for this financial year of £161 million. This reflects prudent reprofiling of the spend in future years of approximately £17 million and is partially offset by £12 million of the new expected spends in this financial year. Importantly, this figure we're referring to is 76.8% of the capital programme is now funded entirely through grant contributions and in-service supported borrowing. Turning to our prudential indicators at the rear of the report, I can confirm that all remain within the approved limits set by Council. Both the operational boundary and the authorised limits for our external debt have been compiled with and providing assurance that our borrowing is managed within prudent indicators. This is also the first time that we have reported the impact on the revenue budget of the DSG deficit that currently exists. The capital monitoring and indicators collectively demonstrate that our capital investment plan are both affordable and sustainable, and that we continue to operate within a robust and responsible financial framework. Finally, Chair, I'd like to acknowledge the continued hard work of officers in all directorates in maintaining these identified mitigation actions. The financial environment remains extremely challenging, but we are taking proactive steps to manage both risk, protect services and maintain financial stability. And the recommendations are set in the report, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you. Did you want to add anything here?
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Councillor Lowry. I just think it's, just to reiterate, at month 6, half-year point, we've undertaken a full review, and this sets out really the challenges it states into the second half of the year. Grateful to the efforts of my colleagues as we look to address that, but obviously we will continue to remain, sure members will continue to remain very focused as we address in-year savings and how we work our way through achieving the task that is in front of us. So thank you. I think that's a good representation of where we are.
Thank you. I think it's worth saying, although I've said it a lot in this forum and others, that the position around children's is not something that's unique to Plymouth. In the past week, I've seen news headlines about one council projecting an 8.2 million overspend, underfund, however you want to refer to it, and another one with a £5 million pressure at this point. And certainly around children's, again, to reiterate, as I have in lots of other places, we have a number of work streams, really robust work streams to work on this, but I do think it's worth mentioning this is not around children's in particular. It's not a Plymouth only problem. Councils across the country are facing this issue around residential placements in particular. Okay, so I turn to the recommendations that the Cabinet agrees to note the forecast revenue monitoring position at month 6 is an adverse variance of 8.754 million with further risks highlighted. Note that overall capital budget 2025 to 2030 is revised to 372. No, I'm going to say that wrong. 372.311 million, sorry, as shown in Table 18, with reconciliation and detail of the movements in the quarter set out in Tables 18 and Table 21, and recommend these amendments to City Council for approval. Note the performance against prudential indicators for Quarter 2, 2025-2026, detailed in Section 13. So, those are the recommendations. Are they agreed? Great. Lovely. Thank you. So now I move on to item 7, which is the plan for nature and people. And Councillor Briers-Delve will introduce the report, and he is joined by Kat Deeney, Head of Environmental Planning, and Chris Avant, Green Estate Manager. Thank you very much for joining us today. So over to you, Councillor Briers-Delve.
So at the start of this administration, I felt that there was a bit of a disconnect between how the public, for very understandable reasons at that point, perceived the council's respect for nature on one hand, and then the excellent work already being delivered within the environmental planning department on the other. There was a need at that point in Plymouth City Council's history to rebuild trust, to rethink engagement, to up the prominence of nature in wider decision-making, and to have a really ambitious longer-term vision for nature recovery across this city. So a couple of years ago, I asked Kat and her team to start work on this as a new strategy for Plymouth. And from the outset, we didn't want this to be a top-down document worked up by one officer, subject to a tick box consultation and then just placed on the shelf. We wanted communities and environmental groups to co-create it and be proud of our shared commitments. We reached out to hundreds of residents throughout a summer of public events, organised a series of focus groups earlier this year, and initiated a steering group with external partners who worked hard to put people's voice at the heart of this plan. And even after the final consultation earlier this autumn, we made further changes to show we really are listening. Quite early on in this process, it became clear that our hopes weren't solely about enhancing nature in a vacuum, but rather the relationship that nature connection has with communities, the health and well-being benefits of going for a stroll in the park or a dip in Plymouth Sound, the growing opportunities for sustainable skills and jobs, encouraging social cohesion, getting people out volunteering, and in particular, boosting the personal development of children. We kept coming back to people, to the point where it became clear that they belonged side by side with nature in the very title itself. But this plan isn't just a woolly vision piece. It is delivery orientated. At the back, there's a 5-year action plan that details exactly what we're planning on doing in collaboration with various partners and how we will be measuring that over time. To give just a few key examples, planting 1,000 street trees, and that's particularly in urban environments where they have low canopy cover. Co-producing neighbourhood level landscape master plans, achieving green flag status for 12 sites, which is a big step up from where we are at the moment. New community orchards and free culinary herbs in major parks. Celebrating Plymouth's unique species and wildlife. Expanding ecotherapy and green social prescribing. And also on the finance side, creating Plymouth's first ever natural capital investment prospectus and aiming to raise £50 million of external green investment by 2030. This document isn't just about looking forwards. We've taken a huge amount of time to reflect on, learn from, and connect up with the phenomenal work that was already happening in Plymouth and has been for some time. I'd encourage you to take a look at the case studies on page 11 and 12, and the others that are dotted throughout this plan, which are labelled as Nature Notes. They paint a picture of Plymouth being a truly national leading light for both nature innovation and also collaboration. If you think about, we've started the UK's first national marine park and the UK's first local authority-owned habitat bank, Ocean City Nature. The Green Communities Teams, and an innovative partnership project between PCC, the National Trust, and other local organisations. The BRIC project, which engages with residents to improve flooding resilience. Plymouth Natural Grid, which has delivered improvements to 50 hectares of habitats, whilst fostering 6 apprenticeships and 15 kickstarters into employment. 50,000 trees planted across the city over the last few years by the Plymouth and South Devon Community Forest, and everything that goes on at Derriford Community Park, from the beavers, the opening up of more land to the public, the youth work and the ecotherapy happening at Poole Farm. You know, that just scrapes the surface of some of the things that the environmental planning team have delivered in the last few years. And before Mark asks, pretty much all of those transformative initiatives are entirely grant funded. Special mention has to go to the 2 officers here today, to Kat and to Chris. They should be incredibly proud of the work that they've delivered in Plymouth over the last decade. That is work that they've been working tirelessly for. And I want to thank all the officers who've been part of this project over the last couple of years, including Lisa and Emmy, who were very, very patient, pulling together feedback from lots of departments, and also about 50 comments from me on the final draft that they had to incorporate in a few days. I'm grateful to the Cabinet for constructively shaping this plan over a series of one-to-ones, which I've had with most of you over the last year, but also Cabinet planning sessions, and the wide range of council departments that have fed into this over a long period. The input from PCC has been massive, but it's actually dwarfed by the huge interest that we've had from the public across the city. The hundreds of keen residents, the environmental groups, the academics, the local, regional and national organisations, and the steering group that we pulled together. We couldn't have done this without all of them. This is Plymouth's Plan for Nature and People, your plan, our plan. So assuming Cabinet votes to endorse it today, we're looking forward to launching it publicly tomorrow at Saltram with lots of the people who've been central in its co-creation. Happy to answer any questions, and so are Chris and Kat. Thank you.
Do you want to add anything, Kat or Chris?
I think just to say the communities and our stakeholders and partners have been brilliant in this actually. They've really engaged with every stage, whether it was our very open questions at the beginning or the stakeholder panels that were run. It's a lot to ask of people's time, but they've come in and they've really challenged us, but also came forward with some really constructive ways forward. And that's the same with colleagues across council actually, with a great join up we've had with children's services, public health, and actually it does feel like something that will deliver through this plan, but it will deliver a lot of other agendas as well.
Thank you. I think you said it right. It's definitely not a woolly vision piece. And I think more and more people are, maybe particularly young people, really expect their council to narrate their place's relationship with nature. And this really does that. And I think you rightly said that Kat and Chris should be proud, but so should you, Tom, because I think you've put your whole heart into this. And I'm sorry I can't be at the launch tomorrow night, but I'm sure it'll be a really special occasion. So if no one's got any further apologies, Councillor Creswell and then Councillor Dan.
I just wanted to say that it's really sort of joined up, because if everyone's been following the sort of the education developments, of course, last week Dame Becky Francis came out with her with the curriculum review, and of course climate and nature and linking children into outdoor nature activities, particularly linking these things into, you know, those areas of the curriculum which include things like geography, sustainability, science and design and technology. And it's as a key aspect of actually enriching our curriculum. And I think one of the things that is really important to focus on, we have a real crisis at the moment with young people and problems with their mental health. And we know that being sort of at one with nature and having those nature experiences has a lot, you know, there's actually social prescribing now, but is really important in terms of our well-being. And I think this is this is so timely, because it really links up with that review that's come forward as far as the curriculum is concerned. And it's going to be absolutely key in terms of not just our children thriving academically in school as well, but we actually must be concerned about their well-being and their ability to thrive and to enjoy both excellence and enjoyment.
Thank you. Councillor Dan.
I'll be at Saltram for you tomorrow. I just want to say a big congratulations as well, because I think it really shows how far the city has moved. So if you think 10 years ago we forced a tree plan through Cabinet, and now we are a city of trees. We have blue plans for the National Marine Park and Blue Coast. We have grey plans. So we know we're going to build a new town in the city centre, and now we have a really important green nature plan. And it is part of that three-legged stool, because I think as the city grows, by having this plan, it really does mean that when we grow, not only will we be growing the numbers, but the quality of life that people will be having will be better. And I think if you look at where we are with our new branded strategy as well, you know, a life of adventure, come to Plymouth. If we don't look after our green spaces and our blue spaces, then what adventure are we inviting people to come here for? So I think it's really important, and it links all those big strategic plans together. So a great well done, and I'll see you at Saltram.
Thank you. Yes, no, I noticed elements of the branding through the plan. So that was really lovely to see. Okay, any other points anyone wants to raise or say? No? Okay. So we'll move to the recommendations then, which are on page 37. Cabinet agrees to endorse the final version of the Plymouth Plan for Nature and People to act as a strategic delivery framework, integrating nature and natural spaces into the city's growth. 2, to approve the creation of a Year 1 action plan for delivery in 2026. We all agreed with those? Great. Okay, thank you. So now I move on to item 8, which is the medium-term financial strategy 2025-26 to 2029-30. Councillor Lowry will introduce the report, and Ian obviously is still here as Service Director for Finance. So I'm going to hand over to you, Councillor Lowry.
Thank you, Chair. So every year the Council produces their medium-term financial strategy, and it sets out its expected expenditure and income for a 5-year period. And it's always a challenge to do that for the Council because we've only previously received a 1-year funding settlement from the government. Now we have a 3-year settlement from the new government, as it were, but there are still a number of challenges within this documentation. Because whilst the government has given us a 3-year settlement, is also undertaking a fairer funding review. It's also looking at the business rate reset, and is also looking at what we do with DSG's deficit going forward. So whilst it does provide us a higher degree of transparency moving forward, there is also some issues outstanding. But we hope many of those will come to light in the next few weeks, to say the least. And as I said in the previous discussion, when we talked about the six-monthly forecast review, there are a number of areas that are causing the Council some financial pressures. Once again, adults, children's social care, homelessness and SEND provision. And if you look within this report, once again, you will see that those numbers represent real people with complex needs, and our responsibility, of course, to support them is unwavering. And those costs, though, do continue to give us pressures, just like every other council, and they cannot be solved through short-term fixes. So therefore, within this strategy, you will see a bold, somewhat necessary shift to a prevention-first approach, and that is absolutely fundamental to dealing with some of those significant pressures that exist. So this is not just a slogan or a program, it's a system-whole commitment to change the way in which we work. It means investing in early help, in smarter service design, and an integrated community-based approach. It means reducing our reliance on high-cost, crisis-driven intervention and a more sustainable model for public service delivery. We're already making some progress. We are expanding our enablement in adult social care. We're strengthening our placements for sufficiency in children's services, and we're investing in new temporary accommodation to meet the homelessness demand. However, transformation alone will not close the gap. The medium-term financial strategy identifies a saving requirement of some £13.7 million for 2026 and 2027. And every directorate is engaged in developing proposals that will meet this challenge. Looking ahead, Plymouth is well placed to benefit from the longer-term national investment programmes. You'll be aware that the city has been designated as a National Defence Growth Area, and its inclusion in the New Towns Task Force programme represents a significant opportunity to support housing delivery and infrastructure investment and economic growth. The medium-term financial strategy is not just a financial document, it sets out the fiscal backdrop to setting a balanced budget for 2026 and informs the roadmap of how we will seek to navigate the next 5 years. It reflects our commitment to delivering for Plymouth residents, even in the face of those significant challenges that I've referred to. We will continue to work closely with members, partners and communities as we go through the budget setting process. This council's budgets are not necessarily the most exciting topic this time of year for many people who are getting excited about the prospects for Christmas, but it's very important that they engage. So therefore, in parallel with today's plan being announced and strategy being announced, we will be engaging with the public to find out their views and opinions, and that's why we're launching a public engagement exercise today. Our survey asked residents and businesses to give feedback on our priorities and plans for addressing the financial challenges we are facing, as well as their ideas for how we could save money or raise income. The survey will only take a few minutes, and I would urge everyone to take those few minutes to give their views and opinions. And if you refer to the council's website, you will find on the front page a link which will enable you to fill out the survey. Also through our links on our social media posts and email bulletins will also give you the opportunity. So the provisional settlement in December will give us some further clarity as to exactly where we are. And this document will then go to scrutiny and to Cabinet for further updates once we have that information and we have further refined our plans. So this report will go to full council and then it will go to budget scrutiny in January. I'd just like to finally complete by giving my thanks to all the team involved in producing this document, because it is a very complex one, but I would particularly like to pay thanks on this occasion to Ian, who I get to work very closely with, who's done a sterling job, because there's been lots of changes. That's not normally the case this time of the year, with the change in government, which is hopefully going to make things better for Plymouth, but meanwhile, Ian and his team had to put an awful lot of extra work in, so I would like to pay thanks to them. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Larry. Did you want to add anything, Ian?
I think that's a very comprehensive overview. I think just to remind members, next week's critical next step, we've got the, we think it's next week, the policy statement will be made, which will start to give us some of that better visibility of, as various announcements have come out in recent weeks around some of the changing metrics that are going to be used for that. The funding formulae and what the outcome of that fair funding review, I think that will be our first step as we start to build out that sort of greater understanding and depth of visibility of how we then start to navigate. Very grateful that we do out of that have that multi-year settlement, and that will enable us to shore up how we do this financial planning. And as we say, there is the gap to work through. And thank you to members and directors as well for the efforts that have gone in so far engaging on that. And we'll continue alongside my team to be doing that over the next month or two as we work towards the various approvals of the full budget next year. So, yep, thank you very much.
Thank you. And to underline that plea for people to take part in the budget, the public engagement around the budget. We really value seeing what people recommend and what people's comments are, and that report then from that comes to budget scrutiny, doesn't it? So the team of budget scrutiny get to look at that, and then there's the whole passage through full council, budget scrutiny, so we'll be returning to this a number of times. Does anybody have anything they want to add or ask? No? Okay. So
people may look at this document and see different figures than what they're used to in respect of our net revenue position, which we roughly talk about somewhere being in the region of perhaps £250 million. Now that revenue figure is now some £325 million, which sounds very exciting. We've got an awful lot of extra money, if only that were the case. But what government has rightly done is said, we give you these grants every year, but we don't always promise you're going to get them. You may get them or not get them, which creates an awful degree of uncertainty in those service areas. Those grants are now going to be rolled into the net revenue position, so hence you will see a significant uplift. But that's good news because it gives us some assurity as to where we're going, but people might see different figures as to what they're used to.
yeah, thank you. I think that's an important bit of clarity for people to understand. Okay, so I'm not seeing any other hands. So we move to the recommendation on page 159, which is that Cabinet approves and recommends the medium-term financial strategy to the City Council at its meeting on 24th of November 2025. All agreed? Lovely. Okay, thank you. Well, I think that concludes the business of this Cabinet today. Thanks everybody for attending.